My greedy sister-in-law was involved in her husband's death, and her next plan was horrific. During a family gathering, when I exposed her future plans, she stood up in anger and threw a wine bottle at me. I was injured, blood mixing with the spilled wine, while my shameful husband stood with his sister instead of supporting me. I decided to seek revenge, and my next move shocked everyone. I still remember the day I met Michael, how the sunlight seemed to dance around him as he walked into the cafe where I worked part-time during my last year of college. He had this charming smile and an air of confidence that instantly drew me in. I was a shy girl, trying to figure out my life as a school teacher in Austin, Texas. Michael was everything I wasn't: sophisticated, ambitious, and already making waves as a corporate lawyer. We fell in love quickly, and before I knew it, I was standing in a beautiful white dress, vowing to love him forever. Our first year of marriage felt like a dream. We shared a cozy apartment filled with laughter, love, and the smell of my cooking. I was determined to make our home a place of warmth and comfort. But soon after the honeymoon phase faded, things began to change. Michael's older sister, Catherine, started to emerge from the shadows, and with her came an overwhelming sense of unease. Catherine was in her early 40s, a real estate agent who prided herself on her success. She was polished, with an aura that commanded attention, but behind that facade lay a manipulative nature I didn't see at first. At family gatherings, she would smile sweetly while subtly critiquing my cooking or my outfit, often saying, "Oh, Sarah, that dress is a bit too bright for a dinner party, don't you think?" Michael would laugh it off, thinking she was just teasing, but I could feel the sting of her words. "Don't take her seriously," he would say, brushing my concerns aside. "Catherine just likes to joke around. You know how she is." I wanted to believe him, but as the months went by, her comments became more pointed, and I started to feel isolated, like a stranger in my own home. It was frustrating, but I was determined to maintain a peaceful relationship with her for Michael's sake. I thought if I just ignored Catherine's barbs, they would eventually stop. But I was wrong. Her subtle jabs turned into outright criticism, and soon, she was questioning everything about me. I would come home from work, exhausted and stressed, only to be met with a barrage of remarks about how I managed the household. "Sarah, you really need to be more organized," she would say, her tone dripping with condescension. "Michael deserves a wife who can handle things better." Michael would often roll his eyes, telling me that Catherine was just trying to help, but with every comment, my confidence eroded a little more. Then came the day everything changed. I was cleaning out Michael's office, trying to organize the chaos of papers that had piled up since our wedding. As I flipped through the files, I found a stack of documents that didn't belong there, legal papers, and to my shock, some of them looked official. At first, I thought they were just old documents Michael had forgotten to throw away. But as I read through them, my heart sank. They were forged legal documents. Catherine had been signing Michael's name to authorize financial transfers and sell off family assets without his knowledge. My hands trembled as I pieced together the evidence. She had been siphoning off money from their inheritance, all under the guise of handling family affairs. This was no mere sibling rivalry. This was serious deception. I was overwhelmed, and my mind raced with the implications. How could Michael not see this? How could he trust someone so manipulative? I knew I had to confront him, but I dreaded the fallout. That weekend, we hosted a family gathering at our apartment. Friends and relatives filled the space with laughter and chatter, but I felt a knot in my stomach as I prepared for the confrontation. When the moment felt right, I pulled Michael aside, my heart pounding. "Michael, I need to show you something," I said, my voice shaky. I led him to his office, hoping to catch him when he was in a good mood. I laid out the forged documents in front of him, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Catherine has been stealing from you. Look at these." He scanned the papers, his brow furrowing. "What is this?" he asked, disbelief creeping into his voice. I explained how I had found them, detailing how Catherine had manipulated the family finances. But instead of the support I desperately sought, Michael's expression shifted. "Sarah, you're just trying to cause drama. You know Catherine has always managed the finances. She's helping us. His voice grew louder, and the chatter of the gathering faded into a muffled backdrop. I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. She's not helping. She's lying and stealing from you. At that moment, Catherine entered the room, her keen sense for drama alerting her to our escalating voices. She took one look at the documents and immediately put on an act. "Oh, Sarah, how could you accuse me of such things?" Her eyes glistened with fake tears as she stepped forward, arms open as if to embrace me. "You're ruining everything." The tension in the air thickened, and I felt like I was suffocating. Michael turned to his sister, his protective instincts flaring up. "Sarah, you're humiliating us in front of everyone," he said, his voice hardening. "Michael, you have to see," I began, but before I could finish, Catherine lunged forward. In a flash of anger and betrayal, she grabbed a wine bottle from the table and hurled it at me. Time seemed to slow down as I felt the impact. Glass shattered against my head, and I collapsed onto the dinner table. Blood mixed with the spilled wine, and I could hear the gasps of our guests around me. It felt surreal, like I was watching everything unfold from a distance. As I lay there, dazed and bleeding, I caught a glimpse of Michael's face, frozen in shock, yet filled with a strange mixture of disbelief and denial. He didn't rush to my side. He didn't comfort me. Instead, he stood there, paralyzed, caught in the web of his sister's lies. In that moment, reality struck me harder than the bottle had. I realized my marriage was crumbling, and Michael would never choose me over Catherine. I was alone, surrounded by people who had once celebrated our love, but now bore witness to my humiliation. Little did I know, this was only the beginning. The truth about Catherine and her twisted manipulations was still waiting to be uncovered, and I was determined to find a way to reclaim my life, even if it meant battling the very family I had tried so hard to embrace. I woke up in a daze, the harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital room stinging my eyes. I could hear soft voices in the background, the beeping of machines, and the faint smell of antiseptic filling the air. Panic set in as I tried to sit up, only to be met with a throbbing pain in my head. "Sarah, please take it easy," came a familiar voice. It was Megan, my best friend since childhood. She was sitting beside me, concern etched across her face. "You scared me half to death. What happened?" I croaked, struggling to piece together the events of the night before. "Catherine attacked you with a wine bottle during the family dinner," Megan explained, her voice steady, yet filled with urgency. "You passed out, and the ambulance took you here." I was so worried. As the memories flooded back, the fear and betrayal twisted in my gut. I couldn't believe what had happened. How had it come to this? I felt a surge of anger toward Michael, who had just stood there, paralyzed by his sister's manipulations. "I have to talk to him," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe it's not the best idea right now," Megan replied, shaking her head. "You need to focus on healing." But I couldn't shake the feeling of urgency. I needed answers. I needed to confront Michael about his loyalty to Catherine, about how he had chosen her over me in my most vulnerable moment. Later that day, I was discharged from the hospital, but the road to recovery felt like an uphill battle. Megan insisted I stay at her apartment for a while. "You need a safe place, away from all this chaos," she said. I nodded, grateful for her unwavering support. As the days passed, I became increasingly determined to uncover the truth about Catherine. I couldn't let her get away with what she had done, not just to me, but to the entire family. While Megan helped distract me with late-night talks and ice cream, I started to dig deeper into Catherine's life. One evening, as we sifted through the documents I had saved from Michael's office, I discovered an email thread on my laptop that I had overlooked. It was between Catherine and a real estate agent, discussing a property sale that had occurred months before. The tone was casual, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Why was she selling properties without Michael's knowledge? "Megan, look at this," I said, pointing to the screen. "She's been selling off family properties without telling anyone. It's like she's building a financial empire for herself." Megan leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. "This is huge. We need to find more proof. If she's manipulating the entire family's finances, we have to expose her." Fueled by a newfound determination, we spent countless hours researching and connecting the dots. We visited public records offices, digging through documents and uncovering Catherine's shady dealings. Each piece of evidence we found painted a darker picture of her true intentions. Then came the breakthrough. While sifting through some old court records, I stumbled upon information that made my heart race. There were whispers of Catherine's past, specifically about her first husband's death. It had been labeled as an accident, but the details were murky. What if she didn't just sell properties? I said, my voice trembling. What if she had something to do with his death? Megan looked up, her eyes wide. You mean you think she might have killed him for the money? It's possible, I replied, feeling a chill run down my spine. If she could manipulate Michael like this, who knows what else she's capable of? We decided it was time to take our findings to the police. Armed with a folder full of evidence and a growing sense of urgency, we headed to the precinct. My heart raced as we walked through the doors, the weight of the situation pressing heavily on my chest. A grizzled detective greeted us, his expression shifting as he reviewed the documents. This is serious, he said, glancing between us. If you're saying she's been stealing from her family and possibly involved in a suspicious death, we need to investigate this further. My breath caught in my throat. For the first time, I felt like I was taking control of my life. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was fighting back against the manipulation that had plagued my marriage. As we left the precinct, Megan squeezed my hand. You're doing the right thing, Sarah. This is just the beginning. But even as I felt empowered, a part of me still feared the repercussions. What would happen when Michael found out? Would he believe me? Or would he side with Catherine again? The uncertainty loomed over me like a dark cloud, but I knew I had to push forward. I couldn't let Catherine continue to destroy everything I had worked for. With each step, I felt the weight of my past begin to lift, replaced by a fierce determination to reclaim my life. This was my journey, and I would see it through to the end, no matter the cost. The days after my confrontation with Michael felt like a haze. I was still reeling from the shock of the wine bottle shattering against my head and the betrayal I felt in Michael's eyes. As I recovered at Megan's apartment, I found solace in her unwavering support, but the weight of Catherine's manipulation hung heavily over me. I knew I had to do something to stop her. Megan and I spent hours sifting through the evidence I had collected. I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed more proof to finally convince Michael of Catherine's true nature. Each document I reviewed only fueled my determination. I recalled the detective mentioning Catherine's past. I had to investigate that further. One evening, as I scrolled through old emails on my laptop, I stumbled upon a thread between Catherine and a real estate agent discussing property sales. My pulse quickened. Why was Catherine selling properties without telling anyone? I called Megan over. Look at this, I exclaimed, pointing at the screen. She's been selling off family properties behind our backs. This could be the evidence we need to expose her. Megan leaned closer, her brow furrowing. This is serious. If she's hiding financial transactions, it could show a pattern of deceit. We have to get this to the police. We decided to pay a visit to the precinct again. My heart raced as we walked through the familiar doors. The scent of coffee and paper filled the air, a stark reminder of the fight we were about to engage in. When we entered the detective's office, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. We found more evidence regarding Catherine's financial activities, I said, my voice firm. The detective's expression shifted as he reviewed the documents we brought. This is significant, he said, his eyes widening. If Catherine has been embezzling funds, we need to investigate this further. Also, I want to look into her past, I added, feeling the urgency rise within me. There might be more to her husband's death than what's been reported. Her husband's death? The detective echoed, intrigued. What do you mean? I explained what I had discovered about Catherine's first husband, Greg, and the suspicious circumstances surrounding his death. The detective nodded, taking notes. We need to gather more information. I'll reach out to you if we find anything. As I left the precinct, a sense of empowerment coursed through me. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was fighting back against the manipulation that had controlled my life for so long. But in the back of my mind, I feared how Michael would react to our investigation. Would he stand by his sister, or would he finally see the truth? A few days later, I received a call from the detective. "Sarah, we've managed to pull some additional records regarding Catherine's first husband's death. We'd like you to come down to discuss it." My heart raced. "I'll be there," I replied, a mix of hope and anxiety bubbling inside me. When I arrived at the precinct, the detective greeted me with a serious demeanor. "We've discovered inconsistencies in Catherine's statements regarding her husband's accident. We think there's more to this case than we initially believed." As I sat in the detective's office, I reviewed the files, my hands trembling. The documents outlined discrepancies in Catherine's account of the night Greg died. Witnesses had reported seeing her near the scene, yet she claimed to have been home. My stomach twisted at the realization that she might have been lying all along. "Sarah, are you okay?" the detective asked, noticing my pale face. "I can't believe this. She's been lying about everything," I whispered, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. The detective nodded. "We need to build a case against her. It's essential we find a way to get you and Michael on board with this." After the meeting, I felt a surge of resolve. I was finally taking charge, but I also dreaded the confrontation I knew awaited me. Would Michael believe me, or would he remain loyal to Catherine? That evening, I decided to reach out to him. "Michael, I found something significant about Catherine. We need to talk." His voice was hesitant when he replied, "I've been thinking about everything. Can we meet tomorrow?" The next day, my heart raced as I waited for him to arrive. When he walked in, his expression was serious. "I've been hearing a lot of things, Sarah," he said cautiously. "I know. I found evidence about Catherine's past. She's been lying about her husband's death, and it goes deeper than that. You have to see this," I urged, showing him the files. Just as I thought he might be open to understanding, Catherine barged into the room, her expression a mask of fury. "What are you doing, Michael? Why are you letting her manipulate you?" "Catherine, you need to hear what Sarah has to say," he replied, his voice tense. But Catherine wouldn't listen. "She's trying to ruin our family," she shouted, her anger palpable. As tensions rose, I knew this confrontation could change everything. I stood firm, ready to face whatever Catherine would throw my way. The battle was just beginning, and I was determined to reclaim my life. The atmosphere in the room was electric, charged with tension as Catherine glared at me. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, but I stood my ground. "Catherine, this isn't just about you and me anymore. This is about the truth." Michael shifted uncomfortably, caught between his loyalty to his sister and the growing realization that something was seriously wrong. "What truth, Sarah?" he demanded, his voice trembling slightly. "You've been saying all these things about Catherine, but I need to know what's real." I took a deep breath, trying to quell the anxiety threatening to consume me. "I found evidence that Catherine forged documents to steal from our family. She's been manipulating finances for years. And there's more. Her husband's death wasn't an accident." Catherine's laughter rang out, a harsh, mocking sound. "You think you can just destroy my life with baseless accusations? You're pathetic, Sarah." But I pressed on, my resolve strengthening. "I have proof, Michael. The police have been investigating her. They found discrepancies in Catherine's statements about Greg's death. Witnesses saw her at the scene, yet she claimed she was home. This is serious." "Lies. All lies," Catherine screeched, her face flushed with rage. "You're just trying to ruin our family." "Family? You call this a family's?" I shot back, my voice rising. "You've hurt everyone around you, including me. You attacked me, Catherine. I won't let you control our lives anymore." Michael remained silent, his expression shifting as he processed my words. I could see the internal struggle etched across his face, and I hoped he would finally see Catherine for who she truly was. "Michael," I continued, my voice softer now, "you have to believe me. I know it's hard to accept, but Catherine is not the person you think she is. I'm fighting for us, for our future. Don't you want to protect what we have?" His gaze flickered between us, and I could sense the walls he had built around his heart beginning to crack. I don't know what to believe," he admitted, his voice breaking. Before I could respond, Catherine stepped forward, her eyes narrowing dangerously. Michael, don't listen to her. She's trying to manipulate you. She's a liar, and she'll do anything to come between us. Enough, Michael shouted, his voice resonating through the room. He turned to Catherine, anger and hurt flashing in his eyes. I need to know the truth, and I want you to be honest with me. Did you forge those documents? Did you lie about Greg? Catherine hesitated, the mask slipping for just a moment. I did what I had to do. You wouldn't understand, she snapped, her bravado faltering. As Michael processed her words, I felt a surge of hope. This was the moment we had been waiting for. You need to turn yourself in, Catherine. This is your chance to take responsibility for what you've done, I urged. Her facade crumbled, and for the first time, I saw the fear in her eyes. You wouldn't dare, she hissed, backing away. I'm family. You can't do this to me. Michael took a step closer to me, determination replacing his earlier confusion. I'm done protecting you, Catherine. You've hurt too many people. With that, he pulled out his phone and called the police. I held my breath as he explained the situation, watching as Catherine's face drained of color. Within minutes, the sound of sirens filled the air, and I felt a mix of relief and apprehension. As the officers entered our apartment, I knew this chapter of my life was finally coming to a close. Catherine was handcuffed and led away, her protests echoing in the hallway. With Catherine gone, Michael turned to me, his expression a mix of remorse and realization. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I should have listened to you. I stepped closer, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. I wanted to protect us both, Michael. It's time for us to heal. As we stood together, I felt a newfound sense of strength. I had fought hard to reclaim my life, and I wasn't about to let the past define me. This was a turning point, a chance to rebuild and reclaim my happiness. In the days that followed, I focused on healing, both physically and emotionally. I moved out of Megan's apartment and into a new place, a fresh start away from the chaos. Michael and I worked on our relationship brick by brick, learning to communicate openly and honestly. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to rise above the darkness. I had learned the power of resilience, and with each step forward, I felt stronger than ever. Catherine's shadow had finally lifted, and I was ready to embrace my new life, free from manipulation and full of hope.